I'm Professor Mindy and I'm a Vice Chancellor's Professorial Research Fellow at ECU. I research issues around gender and gender equality, both in preschool settings and in the higher educational context. ECU is working in the gender equality space by supporting the UN Sustainable Development Goal number 5, gender equality. I'm supporting this through the mentoring that I do and the creative and collaborative research that I conduct and lead. And I'm also supporting women in the higher education workplace. The research that I conduct related to gender inequality, it emerges from a long tradition of feminist ethics, and a feminist ethics that appreciates and values diversities and multiplicities. Multiplicities and diversities can happen in a range of ways. It might be around using and drawing from a range of theoretical perspectives. It could also be, if we're thinking of a preschool classroom, valuing the multiple ways that you can be a girl or a boy or just gendered. So that would be an inclusive environment that appreciates all of these different ways of being. In the higher educational context, valuing those multiplicities and differences can happen in a range of ways. It might be about valuing interdisciplinarity and different ways of coming to a problem. It might be about different ways of being a woman and a woman leader, but it is about valuing those differences. Another way that differences can be valued, and one that I think is really, really important, it's about that there are multiple ways of being a woman. There are women of color, there are indigenous women, there are queer women, and so it's about recognizing that women and woman just isn't one thing, so that we need to really look at the specificities. Another way that my research draws from and emerges from feminist ethics is that it's always situated and that it's situated in a complex world. And this would mean that the research that I do that's related to gender equality is situated in the everyday, and it also recognizes those colonial inheritances that we have here in Australia, and it's about attending to them, not ignoring them. And I think another way that a feminist ethic comes into my research is that it's inclusive and open. And so it's not about shutting down, but about making room for the more. And it's making room for the more that makes room for the complexity and makes room for the specificity of women's lives. One part of the research is working with a group of colleagues, and we call ourselves the FEES, which stands for Feminist Educators Against Sexism. And it's an international collaboration, but we set out to use the creative arts, to use humor, and to use irreverence of calling out of the everyday sexisms that women face in the world. Well, in higher education, women often face this at conferences. So for example, they might go to a conference and they'll find themselves on a panel, and it might be a panel that's dominated by men. And then when it's time for the answer and question time, more often than not, the woman doesn't get asked a question. Or when she does get asked a question, it's not a real question. It ends up kind of being about somebody else's research agenda. So the group FEES, Feminist Educators Against Sexism, we will purposefully go to one of those sessions where it's predominantly men, and we will make sure that we ask the first question, and that first question will be of the woman so that she has a chance to show us what she knows, and we will ask a real question. And so that's another way that the work that I do is about building capacity of those that I mentor, because in order to ask a real question, you have to be engaged and you have to be listening. And so that takes a whole set of skills, and those are skills that we need to be good scholars in higher education. In this network, I hope to bring together women across different disciplines and different kinds of women so that we can work together to figure out what does gender equality mean across different disciplines and for different women. This is important because often the strategies that we have in place don't take into account the different disciplines that women work in or that women are different. Because there is no silver bullet to addressing gender equality, I will be bringing together women from across different disciplines so that we can work together and as a collective to strategize and figure out how can we attend to everyday sexisms in the field.